Good morning, everyone. My name is Rose, and welcome to today's webinar with Bridgestone, Secrets for Supply Chain Traction. I've got a few housekeeping notes before we get started. All attendees will be muted, but if you have any questions, please submit them using the question tab on the GoToWebinar. And please feel free to submit your questions to our presenters at any time during the webinar, and we will take them at the end. We will email everyone the recording of the presentation within 24 hours after it ends. And now please close your computer windows to maximize bandwidth and we'll get started. Today our presenters are Brian Lindemeyer with Transvoyant and Craig Pettit with Bridgestone. I'll now hand it over to Brian and he'll get started on our presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brian Lindenmeyer, Vice President of Customer Growth at Transvoyant. Quick bio about me. I'm a third-generation industrial engineer and supply chain practitioner. I help companies develop strategies, integrations, and execution plans that align your people, processes, and software solutions to exceed supply chain expectations. Joining me from Bridgestone is Craig Pettit, Executive Director in International Logistics and Trade Compliance. Craig is a senior leader with experience at multiple Fortune 100 enterprises in international and domestic logistics, supply chains, and regulatory trade compliance. He has extensive leadership and change management skills working with shippers, carriers, 3PLs, IT providers, and his cross-functional experience includes logistics, customer service, operations, sales, marketing, network op, and regulatory compliance. After these introductions, let's just get started.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you.
We've been a partner with Bridgestone for over 7 years, and it's my pleasure to have Craig join us to share how his team solves these problems with Transvoyant. I'm going to turn it over to Craig now, who will give you a background on Bridgestone and cover some of the actual supply chain disruption events that have occurred within Bridgestone's network and how they leverage Transvoyant to overcome them. Welcome, Craig.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Just starting off a little bit of an introduction about Bridgestone. If you don't know who we are, Bridgestone and Firestone are one company. We are headquartered in Tokyo, Japan. I sit in Nashville, which is the Americas headquarters, which spans from Canada to Argentina. As the slide states, we've been around since 1931, 150 countries. We're borderline, I would say, between us and Michelin every other year. We're the top tire manufacturer globally. My role in particular, I handle international logistics and trade compliance for the Americas. I also sit on the global team as far as ocean tender, ocean contracting, and we have what we call West synergies with the EU. Our CEO in the Americas also manages the EU, so we are working closely with them. We've started working with Transvoyant approximately 7 years ago. It feels like 20 years ago since what we've went through over the last 5 years. The original problem is most shippers do is like, where's my stuff, as Brian alluded to. Typically we have a group of freight forwarders, customs brokers, carriers, and we're trying to gather data off some document, bill of lading, invoice that came in, or asking the source, when did you ship this type of thing. So that really came to us is like that was the original problem. And by the way, we import roughly in the Americas, import and export approximately 50,000 containers a year. So if we take a step back, just going off that, we make tires globally. We make tires from motorcycle tires all the way up to giant mining tires, and giant mining tires are approximately, I always find this fascinating, 12 feet tall, and they're about $100,000 each. So those shipments are timely. Most of everything we do as a manufacturer is very timely. So a brief introduction. I'll go into quick case studies now. So how we used, I could list probably 20 good case studies, but I thought these were some that personally that I was quite involved with, and this is really what added value to our system. So if you remember back in 2000, 21, the Suez Canal was blocked for a number of days with the Ever Given vessel that blocked the Suez Canal. And we ship quite frequently, as I mentioned, 50,000 containers in and outbound, shipping from Asia quite a bit. So we do use the Suez on a lot of our ocean contracts. So on this date, it happened to be my birthday, lucky me. There were like almost 370 ships waiting to go through the canal, and everybody's asking, "Are we impacted? Where's my stuff? Um, what articles or we articles is our part number? What part numbers are going to be on those? Do we have raw materials in those?" And imagine trying to do that without this type of system. You would have to look at every bill of lading, check the routing, go to the carrier website, go back and forth, determine this. Well, with having the visibility platform, and really it's a shame slides don't do the platform justice in my opinion, because there's a neat function where you can pinpoint a geographic area and pull it out, and it pulls all the shipments into a data format of what's on those shipments right down to the order to the SKU number. This was very relevant in this, so something that would have taken my team and I probably would have taken us like 3 or 4 days to get a real handle on this. We had a handle on this within less than an hour. We knew exactly what was on what vessels were going to be impacted. We also could see what vessels were coming through. This is actually a screenshot from the slides that I presented to the executive staff that day of how many containers we had going through there, tires, and we got right down to the SKU level. And from that, we could determine, A, are we going to run out of raw materials for manufacturing? What's our stock on this? Do we need to airship something? Do we need to expedite something? B, do we have any OE tires? So manufacturers, and I assume most of you are in the United States, so we are a large supplier for Toyota, General Motors, Honda, Ford in the United States. So do we have any of their tires on board, because you don't want to make their lines go down. And then C, we also looked at our replacement division, what back orders or sales incentives. For instance, if you go to a Costco and you see our tires on sales, I want to make sure that I have tires to supply them to support their upcoming sales programs. So this really gave us an indication of what we had to do. So moving on to the next study. So case two, I call it Suez Part 2, but uh, basically the Hamas attacks and what happened approximately, we're coming up on almost a year. Our lead time, as mentioned before, we ship a lot through the Suez. A lot of our product comes from Asia, whether it be raw materials specifically and tires, because we have 15 plants in Japan, four plants in Thailand, and also a plant in Vietnam and Indonesia. So we get a lot of products from Asia. So we use that to the East Coast primarily. So if we look at natural rubber, which is, part of our core manufacturing, for those of you that don't know, almost all natural rubber is sourced from Asia. So we don't have rubber trees in the US. So we run uh, 6 manufacturing plants in the US, uh, 2 in Mexico, and several more in South America. So we rely heavily on that route to get product through the Suez. So with this lead time disruption here, when all of this happened, it added quite a bit of lead time into, our manufacturing process. So therefore, we're going back and we're trying to tell the planners, you know, this is quick. Our lead time escalated quickly. I think the stat was it's almost 30% lead time jumped up in 1 month. So um, keeping on that, we try to keep 60 days on hand, but sometimes we run low due to quality issues. So we really had to analyze that. With Transvoyant, we could go in, take a good sweep of, our historical lead time. The PTA functionality with the algorithms actually showed us what the new lead time would be even before it got here. So the predictive um, qualities of it were very important to us, that we could get that in front of our planners quickly, analyze again, do we need to get something here faster? No, we didn't in this case, but we were able to analyze like, all right, next month we need to order more to make up for this. Um, And we reset all of our lead times in our SAP system based on Transvoyant. We update this. We're going now that we're updating at the shipment level, at the SKU level. We're working on that. Typically, we review our lead times monthly based on historical data and going forward data. So it's very valuable to us. So case three. This one's rather interesting. As most of you know, with ocean carriers, um, you sign contracts and you get these, this is the expected lead time, 32 days. So again, we're programming that into 32 days lead time into our system before we start. Then we really start looking at these and we look at our lead times and we compare it to our contracted lead times with the carrier. And this one was particular. We have a large manufacturing facility in Costa Rica that ships primarily to the US. And we were noticing that our inventories were consistently running slow um, as we went through this, and we were wondering why. And we started to look at the lead time. The lead time was projected in the contract at 32 days. The primary route was from Port of Limon through the Panama Canal up to Seattle to our distribution center with no transshipment. And as we pulled the data and looked at it, we were rather shocked at why is this taking 79 to 80 days. The route, was Limon through Panama, um, Seattle, but there was a transshipment point in Panama where the container would actually get off that vessel, go on to a new vessel. And then also with the timestamps that we were able to look at, we also saw the vessel was stopping at multiple ports, which in our contract, they said it was direct from Panama to Seattle. We found that it stopped in Los Angeles, Oakland, and several others. So this was to help us uh, not, I wouldn't say bash the carrier, but also to educate them like we have to be better at this. We have to be more correct. You stated this, we want to get back to this. And again, taking that non-conformity back to the carrier, working with them. Is there a different lane we could get on to make it faster? We have to adjust our lead times. Again, so we're starting to use this tool more and more for this as we build out our program to really measure the carriers. Are they delivering on what the contract says? Um, are they measuring on their commitment to us, whether in transit time, um, volume, so forth, so on. And it also, our program has it measure all the way the inland portion of this too. So we're also measuring the dray carrier. Why did this sit in the port for 10 days? Again, it goes back to hefty detention and demurrage fees. I wouldn't say this year, but 22 was quite hard for us. We paid millions of dollars in detention and demurrage. And really, as we built this out, we've seen a drastic reduction in that. We can tell our dray carrier, this system feeds into our dray carrier. Therefore, it really cycles down that. There's no excuses why something sits. So to sum it up, basically my portion of it, really looking at like I think I looked at the other day, we have contracted carrier rates with over 20 carriers at this point. So think about having to go to each carrier website, and I've had teams do this in like Brazil and Mexico, where they're actually going to the carrier website daily and logging in new ETAs. Well, with this type of system, you have one single source of truth. If you can feed all the data into it, you have one place to go. There's communications, alerts, where again, kind of moving into the 21st century as I look at it. I've been with a lot of manufacturing companies, but really getting a digital footprint on your PTAs. Um, like it's almost, to my team, it's like a transportation management system. You get instant real-time information. Um, I believe Brian could correct me, but I believe they are updated. The pings are updated at least every 15 minutes, so you get real-time information. We use it for inland dray, inland rail. Um, we're starting to use it in other areas on the ground. So a lot of good stuff with that. Um, Carrier integrations are relatively seamless to us as they're connected to most of the carriers. Also, because their ability to be flexible and nimble. They can adjust to different types of formats. For instance, our file sending to them, it's kind of a customized file, but they're easily to make changes to help us, to provide for us. And I think that's key to any implementation. I think most people have been through bad implementations, um, where you go into something and it's very rigid. The data has to meet this criteria, where we found that Transvoyant is very flexible in the data that we provide them. And they actually come to the table with us, um, to look at different things and how we can use data differently. The user interface, we've tried other visibility platforms. We tend to prefer this one. It's easier to navigate, easy to self-service, set up reports. There's also the analytics side of it, where you can set up self-service analytics, where I don't have to call somebody, put in a ticket. I can go basically into a Power BI dashboard with my data on the web and create it on the fly. Um, a lot of good things with that. So, in my position, looking at macro numbers, I can create something relatively quickly. The good part about it, that dashboard will stay live with the data that's fed into the system to the end of time. And even to the basic fundamentals of it, the end-to-end shipment, track and trace at the SKU level. It's all about the data that you put into it. So you need to have some sort of structure to your data. But again, if you want to get to that SKU level data like we do, I haven't seen anything that really compares to a track and trace, because if you go to a carrier website, you're not going to get SKU level data. You're going to get, it's a container full of tires to me, where I need to know what tires are on that container, and what customers it could impact if I don't get them in time. So very valuable information. So um,
Really appreciate it, Craig. Thank you for sharing those examples to our audience. We're
thank
getting
you.
ready for some questions, and we'll get to those in a minute. I'll take a moment real briefly to give you an overview of Transvoyant's capabilities. And what we do for Bridgestone is really just the tip of the iceberg. We in the end of the day, Transvoyant will automate supply chains by anticipating behavior, flow, and risk, and prescribing actions in real time using our situational awareness through AI and ML and our proprietary derived data. And I think a great example of that was being able to tell you that we're expecting and predicting that the lead time on that shipment was going to be closer to 80 days, and you were expecting it to be 32. And that predictive analytics and that ability to foresee the future allows you to interdict issues before they actually occur. Start taking some questions here. Craig, one of our attendees has asked, if they don't have like even tier one visibility or don't have confidence in their data, will this solution still work for me, or how would this solution work?
I mean, as I kind of stated, Brian, you can put into it what you want, and you're going to get that out of it. So everybody's got to start somewhere. I look at it like, to me, like when I work with my Transvoyant, I call it TV account rep, and the team there. I mean, if you have a container number, um, that's all you really need from the beginning. It depends how granular you want to get. So, I mean, everybody's got a container number. I mean, you're either booking it with a carrier or you're having a freight forwarder book it. And if you're using a freight forwarder, they have data somewhere, with the bill of lading, the ports, so forth, so on. But um, you have to start with a container number. And if you can link that container number to an invoice or a purchase order out of your either ERP systems such as SAP, like we do, um, then you can really start to build on it. But starting as basic as a container number, like I have shipments now that I can see their container number and it says equipment. So that's as basic as you get, I think, in my book. You can start there and you can get really, really deep if you want to.
Yeah, I'll add to that. When we start with any client, and similar to starting with Bridgestone, if I'm looking at how did I transfuse and infuse this data, taking that ERP data, which has all the order detail, that SKU level detail, what we make really easy is taking that data, linking it to that carrier limited data, and merging that so you have that single version of the truth. We're harmonizing. Yep, bill of lading 1, 101010 what? has these orders on it. These orders have these products, parts, materials, and that's that single view that you had talked about without having to go, hey, look up an order number in SAP. Oh, it's this bill of lading for this carrier. Oh, by the way, it might be on two different carriers, and I'm looking at that order split, and some of it's on rail, some's on road, some's in the
Mhm.
sea. We're managing that for you. So
I mean,
you can start small, and I think this will pivot to the another question.
well, one thing
Go
I
ahead.
wanted to add, Brian, while you're on it, like I said, basically the container number, and you can get as elaborate, but also, people think of these as like, oh, I have to have an API or EDI set up. I mean, literally, our file is basically a spreadsheet format sent automatically every day. So a CSV type file. So it doesn't have to be all fancy. Yes, it's great if it gets there, but I'd love to get ours there, believe me. But I mean, as simple as sending a spreadsheet to have them upload every day. I mean, everybody can use a spreadsheet, I'm pretty sure. So,
Yeah.
um,
And with that said, things that you've learned from the original implementation you've done with Transvoyant, are there things in the last, you said it was a rough 7 years, felt like 20. What are some of the things recently that are newer innovations that you worked with Transvoyant on?
well, to rephrase the 20 years thing, it isn't because I worked with Transvoyant. It's
Yeah.
just supply chain in the last 7 years feels like 20. Um, so it wasn't that. Thank goodness for this system and what we've been able to do. Um, so the innovation is just working with the team and the flexibility. Like, every supply chain's different. We're not a pharmaceutical company. Um, we're a manufacturing company and also kind of a retail company. So we have different divisions. We are, as stated earlier, we are quite large. Um, so, different people have different things. So we've created our file based on our needs, where the platform allows you to filter to create specific users, I think is key too, because a manufacturing guy waiting for natural rubber doesn't care about tires coming in. I mean, we have 7 distribution centers, 7 factories in the US. So you have to be able to tailor that. So it goes back to the data file that we've created with Transvoyant. Hey, can we do this? Can we do that? And really, putting those together.
Uh, Kind of playing on that data question, participant asked, can you ingest other data? They have dedicated fleets with beacons on every tractor, carrier, container, and can Transvoid ingest this, post this data to a common portal. I'm not sure that we're doing that with Bridgestone, but absolutely. I mean, do you have any IoT devices or container devices that you're tracking actively, Craig? In terms of like,
Currently, we don't. I mean, we've done trials with this with Transvoyant. Um, because I mean, tires aren't time sensitive usually. And usually what we were looking at is Mexico loads coming into the US where they're not that timely. Um, I could see I've worked for Del Monte and stuff where perishables, they could be quite timely. We did a test with IoT devices that worked really well. We just management didn't seem like it was cost beneficiary to us at that time.
okay. Uh, just playing off of that too, do you have, because you're a global company, how easy is it for somebody, let's say at the Mexico manufacturing plant, to only see what shipments are coming to Mexico, or am I overwhelmed with all shipments? Is it easy to filter down so that if I was a
That's
customer or part of the supply chain network, I only see what's impacting me? Here's my shipments coming to my plant
yeah.
or my warehouse.
Well, that's part of the data file that we worked with the Transvoyant team on setting up, where we had the capabilities to create categories, and then we created specific users that were basically honed in on what they needed to look at. So therefore, they can log in. It's really self-service. You can create your own reports, your own dashboards. Like I can log into several things, and I can see just what I wanted to see because we've created these users. So it's very adjustable. Like for instance, this morning as most of us know, there's a strong possibility of an ILA strike, which would drastically affect most companies. And we've already created a report and dashboard for it. So I can go in and look at what's on the water, um, when it's going to be impacted, and I can send it to people. Other people can view it so they can go, oh, I might need to look at air shipping some of this stuff. This could be impacted. So again, it's very flexible.
We have one last question here, a couple minutes remaining. Uh, I think what you've shown us is very impressive. The question was, how much time did you need at the start of this journey, since you've been working with Transvoyant for so long? The initial implementation, to get from start of journey to the current state of visibility, and do you have any key milestones along the journey, main pain points, Craig, that you might want to give?
Well, I mean, it's been a long journey, and I wouldn't say it's because of us and how complicated we are. Like in the Americas, we have 5 different instances of SAP. So we had to format our data to fit into. I'm particular about data, and I wanted it to be all one format to going in, so it's apples to apples. So we kind of harmonize it before we send it over. We worked hard at that, but the first part, the 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 initial file was based off of one of our old systems, and Transvoyant was able to take it basically in its existence and use that file like that. So that was great. Other milestones, as we start implementing other supply chains into this, or LA supply chain, as I call it, trying to get the data in-house better and putting it over. But we're really getting to a point now where I looked at it the other day, from an America standpoint, we have about 95% of our ocean containers in here, probably more like 98% of our ocean containers are in the system now. So it's almost 100% visibility.
So
So
in summary, even if you have multiple SAP systems or carriers, onboarding one of the systems could be done in months, weeks, getting that
mhm,
set up, bringing on the
right,
first carrier, and it's a crawl, walk, run kind of approach you can take that over the time. It doesn't take 7 years, but in that first 12 months, really depends on your willingness to either provide the raw data
right,
and get harmonized within Transvoyant, or you chose to do that yourself. But pretty quick ramp up, and then building on that is something that can be very agile, bringing on a new carrier fairly quickly, things of that nature. I think is a great point. Look, we've gone a little bit over. I do want to thank everyone for their participation. Most importantly, Craig, thank you for taking the time out of your day as you're dealing with potential strikes,
yeah,
weather-related issues, trying to keep Bridgestone's traction
yeah.
with OMs and the aftermarket space. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.